My name is Linda. I'm 68 years old, and last Friday I believed I was walking into a family weekend at my son's house. I pictured the chatter of my granddaughter, the smell of something cooking in the kitchen, maybe even a board game around the dining table. I carried those hopes with me in a small suitcase and in the bottle of wine I had chosen carefully, thinking it would pair nicely with dinner. But when I stepped through the front door, the silence met me first. No voices, no laughter, not even footsteps rushing down the stairs. Just the hum of the refrigerator and the muffled ticking of the clock on the wall. I called out, "Hello?" The word fell flat, swallowed by emptiness. In the kitchen, I found a folded note propped against a coffee mug. My hands trembled as I opened it, the way hands sometimes know the truth before the mind does. The words were short, almost casual. "Thanks, Mom. We knew you'd understand. Please take care of the dogs and the cat for us. We'll be back after the weekend. This trip is for only the most special people." I read it twice, then a third time, hoping the meaning would change. It didn't. My eyes caught on the phrase, "only the most special people," and something inside me cracked. I steadied myself against the counter, my breath shallow, my heart stumbling. The sound of claws tapping across hardwood pulled me back. The dogs wagged their tails at me, delighted at my presence, while the cat leapt gracefully onto the counter as if to supervise. They were innocent, of course, expecting food and affection, but their presence only underlined what I had been reduced to, a convenient caretaker, not a guest, not family. I reached for my phone with a sliver of hope, the absurd wish that this might be a mistake, but the screen lit up with a new photo posted minutes ago. There they were, Marcus, his wife, and their daughter, standing on a sunlit deck of a cruise ship, sunglasses glinting, drinks in hand. The caption read, "Finally, a weekend for only the special ones." My throat burned, my eyes blurred. I whispered to no one but the empty kitchen. So what does that make me? The dogs pressed close to my legs, sensing something wrong. I knelt to stroke their heads, tears slipping down my cheeks before I could stop them. For the first time in my life, I felt like a ghost in my own family's story, present only to clean, to feed, to be useful, but never to be cherished. And in that moment, the weekend I thought would bring closeness revealed itself for what it was: betrayal, plain and deliberate. That first night stretched out like a punishment. I carried my suitcase upstairs to the guest room I had once decorated myself. Years ago, when Marcus first bought this house, I'd sewn the quilt for the bed and framed a few photographs of our family to make the room feel welcoming. Standing there now, the colors looked dull, the faces in the photos foreign. The bottle of wine I had packed so carefully sat unopened on the dresser, mocking me with its optimism. I tried to keep myself busy. The dogs circled me with wagging tails, their energy a strange contrast to the heaviness in my chest. The cat prowled across the kitchen counter, meowing sharply until I filled its bowl. I rinsed the dishes piled in the sink, wiped crumbs from the counter, and even took the trash out. My hands moved quickly, as if cleaning could erase the sting of those words. Only the most special people, but the silence pressed in harder with every chore completed, reminding me I was alone in a house where I had once felt wanted. I sat at the table and thought about the years behind me. The Christmas mornings I had cooked breakfast for everyone while Marcus unwrapped gifts with his daughter. The summers when he called, saying he wanted me to visit, but really just needed someone to watch the child while he and his wife ran errands. At the time, I told myself it was normal, that mothers give without asking much in return. But tonight, the truth glared at me. I hadn't been invited to share love. I had been summoned to serve. I tried to silence the thought, but it grew louder. When had I become this invisible, this convenient? Had it started when Marcus went off to college and I worked double shifts at the diner to cover his textbooks? Or later, when he married and I swallowed my disappointment at never being truly included in their plans? Somewhere along the way, I had slipped from being essential to being expendable. The anger arrived in bursts. One moment I was wiping tears from my cheeks, the next I was pacing the kitchen with my fists clenched, whispering, "How could you? How could you?" I wanted to believe I was mistaken, that maybe Marcus had thought I'd enjoy the quiet. But the photos told the truth. Their smiles on that cruise ship were carefree, untouched by the thought of me feeding their animals in silence. When midnight came, I lay awake in the guest bed, staring at the ceiling. The house creaked with the settling of wood, but otherwise, it was still. Too still. My mind kept circling the same question. When did I stop being his mother and start being his employee? By dawn. The answer was clear. I couldn't keep pretending. This weekend wasn't about family, it was about convenience. And if Marcus could reduce me to a role, then I would choose a new role for myself. By the next morning, I refused to spend another hour trapped in that suffocating silence. I clipped leashes onto the dogs and stepped outside, the air crisp against my face. They bounded ahead with unrestrained joy, their paws drumming the sidewalk as if they had been waiting their whole lives for this moment. Their energy tugged me forward, away from the heaviness of the night before. The neighborhood was quiet, tidy lawns trimmed and cars still parked in driveways. I passed a young couple loading groceries, their laughter spilling into the cold morning air. It stirred a pang in me. Laughter had once lived in my home, too, but I kept walking until we reached the park. There, the dogs chased each other through the grass, rolling and barking with an innocence that made me smile despite myself. I sank onto a bench, wrapped my coat tighter, and let the sight wash over me. For the first time in years, I wondered when I had last laughed with such abandon, when joy had last felt that simple. It had been too long. The thought followed me all the way back to the house. I looked around the rooms, once filled with my energy, and realized they didn't belong to me. I could spend the whole weekend cleaning and cooking, pretending I was useful, or I could do something different. That afternoon, I drove to the community center where I had volunteered years ago. The parking lot was full, music floating through the doors. A sign announced a yoga class for seniors starting in 10 minutes. I hesitated, then signed my name on the sheet. The room smelled faintly of lavender. Mats lined in neat rows. As I stretched awkwardly beside strangers, the instructor's calm voice urged us to breathe into the discomfort. My muscles shook, but with every exhale, something inside me loosened. She wasn't just talking about the body, at least not for me. I had been holding my breath in this family dynamic for too long, shrinking so Marcus could expand. For the first time, I let myself breathe all the way out. After class, a woman named Evelyn struck up a conversation, her eyes kind, her smile warm. Within minutes, she had invited me to join her and her husband at their weekly coffee group. I almost declined, out of habit. But then I thought, why not? That evening, I found myself in a booth at a small diner, sipping hot coffee while Evelyn's husband George insisted I try a slice of peach pie. Their laughter was easy, unforced, and for once I wasn't sitting in silence waiting for scraps of attention. I listened, I laughed, and the sound startled me with how real it felt. Driving back to Marcus's house, I rolled down the window, letting the night air brush my cheeks. For the first time that weekend, the emptiness didn't feel like punishment. It felt like possibility. By Sunday evening, the silence in Marcus's house had become unbearable. I'd spent the day walking the dogs, cleaning dishes, even painting a little to calm my nerves. But nothing dulled the sting of betrayal. My phone buzzed again on the counter. Another notification. Against my better judgment, I opened it. Marcus, his wife, and my granddaughter stood smiling on the deck of a cruise ship, the ocean sparkling behind them. Their caption read, "Just us, just the ones who matter most." The words hit harder than the note on the fridge. My chest tightened until I could hardly breathe. Without thinking, I tapped his name and pressed call. He answered quickly, his voice light. "Hey, Mom, everything good with the pets?" For a moment, I almost slipped back into the role he expected, the reliable caretaker. But anger steadied me. "The pets are fine," I said, "but I'm not." There was a pause. "What do you mean?" "I came here for a family weekend. Instead, you left me behind to feed your animals while you took a vacation. You didn't even tell me to my face. You left a note, and then you post pictures about just the special ones. Do you realize how cruel that is?" He sighed sharply. "Mom, you're overreacting. We thought you'd enjoy some quiet. Besides, you love the dogs. Don't twist this." I snapped. My voice surprised even me. "You didn't invite me out of love. You used me." Again. He gave a short laugh. "You always make everything dramatic." I clenched the phone tighter, but I didn't waver. "No, Marcus, I'm not being dramatic. I'm finally being honest. You treat me like staff on call, not like your mother, and I won't accept it anymore." His tone hardened. "So what? You want me to cancel my trip and come home?" "I don't want that," I said, calmer now. "I want respect, and until you can give it, I won't be here waiting for you." Before he could respond, I ended the call. My thumb pressed the red button firmly, and for once I felt no regret. I packed quickly, tossing clothes into my suitcase. The dogs followed me from room to room, confused. I knelt to stroke their fur. "You'll be fine," I whispered. "This isn't your fault." Downstairs, I pulled the note from under the magnet on the fridge. I folded it neatly and slipped it into my purse, not as a keepsake, but as proof. A reminder of the line I would never let him cross again. The sky was streaked with purple when I loaded my suitcase into the trunk. For a moment, I sat in the car, staring at the house where I had once felt welcome. Memories tugged at me, birthdays, holidays, his graduation, but I shook my head. Those moments were gone. I started the engine. The hum of the car felt steady, like my own heartbeat. As I pulled away from the curb, I didn't look back. The tears that I expected never came. Instead, a strange calm settled over me, as though I had finally surfaced after years underwater. When I unlocked my own front door later that night, the air smelled of lavender detergent and coffee, my scent, my life. I set the suitcase down, exhaled, and whispered into the quiet, "This is not the end. This is the beginning." The first 2 days back in my own house were strangely quiet. I made coffee, watered the plants on the porch, folded my laundry, and tried to lose myself in ordinary routines. But inside, questions circled endlessly. Had I gone too far? Had I been too harsh? Marcus's words echoed. "You're overreacting. You always make things dramatic." By the second night, doubt gnawed at me so much that I found myself pacing my living room. Maybe I should have stayed. Maybe I should have let it go for the sake of peace. I sank into my armchair, pressing my hands to my temples, wondering if I had ruined everything. The phone rang. I almost didn't answer when I saw Marcus's name flash in my mind, but the screen showed a different one. Anna, my granddaughter. My heart ached as I picked up. Grandma? Her voice was soft, careful. Are you okay? I tried to sound steady. I'm fine, sweetheart, just a little tired. She hesitated, then said, Dad told me what happened. Well, his version, but I know how he can be. He makes people think they're wrong when really he just doesn't want to admit his mistakes. I've seen him do it to Mom, and to me. I gripped the phone tighter. You mean you've noticed it too? Of course, she said firmly. You're not crazy. Grandma, you're not dramatic. Leaving you there like that was wrong. You had every right to walk away. The tears came before I could stop them. I pressed the phone against my ear, whispering, Thank you, Anna. You don't know how much I needed to hear that. I do know, she said, and I want you to know I'm proud of you. You stood up for yourself. That matters. Her words wrapped around me like a blanket, easing the ache that had kept me awake. For the first time, I realized I wasn't alone in this. Someone else had seen the truth. Someone else had named it. That night, I slept deeply, untroubled by the doubts that had haunted me before. Anna's voice echoed in my dreams, strong and clear. You had every right. 2 weeks slid by in silence. At first, the quiet felt like relief. No texts, no calls, no new photos of smiling faces on a beach without me. I filled my days with long walks, watercolor classes, and coffee at the diner with Evelyn and George. On the surface, it looked like I was moving forward. But every night, when the house settled and the lights dimmed, the ache returned. A mother doesn't stop hoping for her child's voice. Then, one Wednesday afternoon, my phone rang. Marcus's name lit the screen. I stared at it, my thumb hovering, torn between the urge to ignore it and the deeper urge to finally hear what he had to say. At the last second, I pressed, accept. Mom, he said, his voice lower, slower than usual. Can we talk? I braced myself. I'm listening. He hesitated, then admitted, I know I messed up. Leaving you there like that, posting those pictures, it was thoughtless. No, it was worse than that. I used you, and I'm sorry. For a moment, I just listened, my heart hammering. I had waited years for him to name the truth, but instead of rushing to fill the silence, I let it stretch. Marcus, I said finally, I've loved you every day of your life, but love without respect isn't love, it's slavery, and I won't live like that anymore. He exhaled, shaky. I know, I don't want to lose you. Mom, please, tell me what I need to do. It isn't about a grand gesture, I told him. It's about daily choices, boundaries, treating me like a person, not an afterthought or a backup plan. Can you do that? I'll try, he said, then corrected himself. No, I will. His words trembled with sincerity, but I'd been fooled by quick apologies before. I'll believe it when I see it, I said gently but firmly. Until then, I won't step back into your house. Respect first, then everything else. There was a long pause, not defensive this time, but fragile. Okay, Mom, he said. I understand. When I hung up, I sat at my kitchen table staring at the folded note still pinned under a magnet. My hands were steady. For the first time in years, I felt the power of saying no. The days that followed were tentative. Marcus began calling on Sundays, at first awkwardly, then more naturally. He asked how I was, not just about errands or favors. He tried to listen. But old habits don't die in a week. Twice he slipped, once asking if I could swing by and help with his laundry when his wife was sick, another time hinting that I should watch his daughter during a busy workday. Both times, my stomach clenched, tempted to fall into old patterns. But I heard Anna's voice in my memory. You had every right. So I answered differently, calm, clear, but unmovable. No, Marcus, that's not my role anymore. If you need help, hire someone. I'm your mother, not your housekeeper. The first time, he bristled. The second, he sighed. But both times, he backed down. And that was new. That was proof. Weeks turned into months, and though the road was uneven, I began to see change. Not perfection, change. A shift in tone, in effort, in recognition. He had a long way to go, but for once, I wasn't dragging him toward it. He was walking, slowly, on his own. And I, for the first time in years, was walking too. Not behind him, not for him, but beside my own worth. Step by step. 6 months have passed since that weekend, and the rhythm of my life has changed in quiet but powerful ways. The Sunday calls became routine. At first, they were short, stiff conversations, Marcus fumbling for words and me cautious with mine, but gradually they softened. We spoke about books I was reading, the watercolor class I loved, even the walks I took with Evelyn and George. For once, he wasn't just calling to ask for help, he was calling to know me. It wasn't perfect. Some weeks he slipped back into old habits, his tone sharp or his requests creeping past the line we had drawn. Each time, I reminded him, calmly, that's not who I am anymore. He bristled at first, but over time I saw the defensiveness fade. It was as if he was relearning how to see me, not as a tool, but as a person. One Sunday in early spring, he asked if I would come for dinner. His voice carried no command, no expectation, only an invitation. I hesitated, remembering the sting of the last time I'd stepped into that house. But then he added, "We'd like to cook for you. No strings, just us together." So I said yes. That evening, when I arrived, the house felt different. The lights were warm, music played softly in the background, and the table was set with care. Marcus greeted me at the door, his arms open but tentative, as if waiting for permission. I let him hug me, not out of obligation, but because I wanted to. In the kitchen, he and his wife moved around each other with surprising ease, stirring sauces and setting out plates. My granddaughter Anna came down the stairs, grinning wide, and threw her arms around me. "Grandma," she said, "I told them they had to do this right." We laughed, and for the first time in a long time, the sound felt genuine. Dinner was simple. Roast chicken, green beans, and mashed potatoes, but every bite tasted like effort. Marcus poured me a glass of wine and raised his own to second chances, he said quietly. I nodded, clinking my glass with his, though my eyes warned him this wasn't unconditional. He seemed to understand. After the plates were cleared, Marcus handed me a wrapped frame. Inside was a photo of the 4 of us at the table that night, printed and already set behind glass. At the bottom, he had written, "Thank you for teaching me that real love begins with respect." My eyes burned, but I didn't look away. "This is a start," I told him. He nodded. "I know." When I left that night, the porch light glowed behind me, and the air felt softer than it had in months. Marcus stood in the doorway, Anna beside him, waving as I walked to my car. For the first time, I didn't feel like an afterthought. I felt like myself, whole, steady, respected. Back home. I hung the photo on my wall, not as proof of reconciliation, but as a reminder of my own strength. I had learned something crucial. Saying no wasn't the end of love. It was the beginning of love that mattered. As I settled into bed that night, the phone buzzed with a new message. It was Marcus. "Thank you for coming tonight. Mom, I'll call you Sunday." I smiled, placed the phone on the nightstand, and whispered into the dark. Loving them never meant losing myself, and for the first time in years, I drifted into sleep with peace. Thank you for watching. If you enjoy these family drama and revenge stories, please subscribe and join me for more every day.